Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 10 of the Moderately Athletic Podcast. I am your host, Sam Wantock. Sometimes I forget numbers, but that's why I have my friends, Ethan Decker and Tyler Noctical, to help me with those said numbers. Fellas, how we doing today?
Feeling
Really
good. Yeah, I think this is the first time I'm 3-0 in our fantasy league, so I feel really
Same.
good about that. So I think my team has scored the most amount of points in the league. Feeling really good about the season. What about you, Deck?
Same here. I don't know if I've ever been 3-0 either. I don't really know how to react to this, but
Yeah.
I wish that we could have football every night of the week, because Tuesdays and Wednesdays here just feel so bland. Nothing on.
yeah.
What to do with our time?
What do you mean, what to do with our time? We have time to record the Moderately Athletic Podcast. And guys, I just want you to know that. You want to know what happened the 1 year I started 3-0?
Let me guess.
I got it.
You placed
got
11th. Oh, wow.
I did.
Didn't see that
So,
coming.
yeah. I just thought I'd throw a little nihilism into our optimism. But anyways, here we go. We're going to start with our Week 3 reactions, and we're going to end with our Week 3 reactions, because that's what this episode is. Now, let's start with a game that I think we all thought was going to be the game of the week. Probably wasn't the game of the week, but still a very good game. And that was the Buffalo Bills versus the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins came out on top. Mike McDaniel starting to look like, quite possibly, the ballsiest head coach in the NFL. Boys, what are we thinking?
Yeah, I wasn't a big. I shouldn't say that. I really liked Mike McDaniel's going into the season. I wasn't sure how he was going to do as a first-year head coach with this like potential on offense and a decently good defense that proved itself last year, and he has gone up against now Bill Belichick, Harbaugh, and Sean McDermott. I'm pretty sure all three of those have won Coach of the Years in past. Not sure.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So if they haven't, they deserve it, because those are three absolutely stellar head coaches in the NFL. Now, would we rank him a better coach than all three of those guys? Probably not. He does have a significantly better roster than I would say Bill does, but he is really, really proving all the haters wrong, and that he has the ability to not only be scheme wise, be able to put together a good scheme for his players, but you know what? He is building this culture in Miami that is absolutely perfect. They love him down there. So I think that he obviously, to me, is the front runner for Coach of the Year. My prediction in Sirianni is not far behind, but you got to give it to the first-year guy if they continue down this road. But, Bills really, they're, last week we kind of talked about 17-0 question mark. But I believe I was kind of pumping the brakes on that discussion. I will say I wasn't sure where the loss was going to come, or where their losses were going to come, but we saw them kind of get exposed against Miami. Their secondary is not that good, the Bills. And not only that, I don't think their O-line is very good. Bills, Josh Allen threw the ball, 70 times?
I
gotta
don't
pull.
think it was that high. But
It
Was it 60?
60,
I
yeah.
think it was 62.
I think for
62.
sure it was 60.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, to me, is not a recipe for winning football. You need to be able to run the ball. And this O-line that they have, it's kind of been set up to pass the ball or kind of rely on Josh Allen's skills. It's not built for running. And I think that really did hurt the Bills in this game, not being able to get the ground game going. And, they have a high draft pick in James Cook, and he barely gets the ball, barely touches the field. I think Singletary had like the same amount of yards as touches, like pretty much averaging like 1 yard a carry. And then Zach Moss would be doing the same if he didn't bust like a 43-yarder off. So, this run game is absolutely pathetic right now, and they really need to get that going if they want to be successful.
Because I just feel like that's the same argument that we've had to make for the Bills almost like the past at least 2, maybe even 3 years, is that, Josh Allen can really throw the ball, but they don't really have a run game. And so we thought that maybe, Zach Moss, that's going to solve that problem. It was still a problem. We thought, James Cook, that might solve the problem. It hasn't. So it's like it makes you. It's like, sure, they've still won like 10 plus games every year without a run game, but for them to be that 17-0 or like 15-2 team, that is definitely a thing that they have to fix, and something that hasn't happened the past couple of years. Deck, what's your thoughts on the Bills and Dolphins?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Tyler. Like, Mike McDaniel has to be, through 3 weeks now, has to be the front runner for Coach of the Year. If not top 3 in there. He's done wonders with this Dolphins team, and I mean, Brian Flores at the end of last year had that team going, and now they just carry that momentum into this year. And I think just with Mike McDaniel, I think the players just gravitate towards. He just has that really calm demeanor about him. Like, you don't see him getting too fired up. His locker room speeches are very calm. He gives out the game balls and that, but he's so small and just calm. And I think players just gravitate towards that. And for me, the 2 biggest questions I was mentioned last week was, how can this Dolphins defense do against Buffalo, and can they establish a run game? And 19 points against Buffalo. Granted, 2 of that came from the butt punt, and on the ground game, Chase Edmonds had 2 touchdowns. So at least they got some goal line touch. They got to the red zone, got to the goal line, and scored those touchdowns. And for Buffalo, it's like, I'm not concerned, but I'm kind of disappointed in their coaching, the coaching with like McDermott and Ken Dorsey, and the fact that it was very hot down there in Miami. You're wearing your blue uniforms. The heat just gets to you. We saw Diggs leave the game, dealing with cramps and a little heat exhaustion, and it's just not smart to run. They threw 60 times. I think ran like 12 times. So that's just not. I'm just not a recipe for success in that Miami Heat to
You
keep
can't
guys
have
moving all that time.
Yeah, you can't have your wide receivers running that much. Period.
No. And I do have concerns about this O-line. Like Allen, he can obviously escape and move around in that pocket very well, but that pocket is closing fast and it's collapsing. Edge rushers are getting there pretty quickly, and I think that could definitely be the downfall for them if they don't start getting that figured out. But overall, final thoughts about this is, man, Miami is looking good. I'm wondering right now who can stop them, because they've beat 3 of the AFC's best, or New England obviously is not one of the tops, but very successful franchise. So.
I mean, you can never count them out with Bill as head coach. So
Yeah, that's a good point. He's definitely playing chess and winning against some of the brightest minds that the coaching world has to offer for football, and we'll have to keep seeing how this goes. Dolphins 17-0. We don't know. Maybe. All right, moving on. We have Carolina Panthers versus the New Orleans Saints. This was a Carolina win. It was. It's one of those divisional games that just sometimes. That's how it goes sometimes. Guys, what are we thinking?
I don't even think you can chalk it up to that. I just think that the Saints are, well, I shouldn't say this because we were kind of the ones doing it, but they're a little overrated. And we were the ones hyping them up. So the Saints defense that I thought was back last week, didn't show up. They just flat out didn't show up against Baker Mayfield. I don't know what it is about this front seven, but they are just not producing. The Cam Jordan and Marcus Davenport look like bums out there. Like they are not like the marquee name brand guys that they are getting paid as, and like they're not producing. Secondly, the secondary, mainly Tyron Smith, cannot tackle to save their lives. Not Tyron Smith, Tyron Matthew. I've made that mistake in the past. Tyron Matthew puts absolutely zero effort into tackling. Example A, that Laviska Shenault, 60-yard touchdown or whatever it was. Let's see. It was... Where is it? 67 yards.
It was 67, yeah.
He could have tackled him 13 yards 13 yards into that 67-yard touchdown run. But now, granted, Laviska's not easy to tackle, but he made absolutely no effort into this. And beyond that, Panthers defense, I kind of do like still. I really like their linebackers. Saints defense clearly was what I thought was gonna be their saving grace this year is not there, and I thought it was gonna be able to kind of support this offense that I wasn't sure about. And and speaking of the offense, it's just not coming together. Jameis Winston looks like old Jameis. He does not make good decisions. His accuracy is horrible, and they can't get anything going on the run. You have Alvin Kamara on the backfield, and just nothing is being able to produce, or is being produced. So I am a little nervous about the Saints, and you kind of have to wonder, were we kind of undervaluing the departure of Sean Payton?
Maybe. That's definitely a possibility. Because Jameis certainly played better while he was under Sean Payton. Could have been a game plan thing, for sure. I think something that I want to bring up about the Panthers that I think we should all pump the brakes on is that I still think that Baker isn't great, and some people might look at this game and think he is good. Like you had mentioned, that one 67-yard touchdown, maybe you'd think, maybe Baker threw it 30 yards downfield. It was a screen.
Yeah.
Baker did nothing on that play. And thankfully, I haven't seen him talking trash at all. But if he did, I'd be like, dude,
so
you are.
Yeah. So
it's all yards to catch.
With 67, with a long of 67, how many total yards do you think he threw for? Over, under 200?
Under.
Yeah. With a 67 long, quote unquote, pass, if you took that away, he would have finished with 103 passing yards. So
Ooh.
it's no, he's not good. How could this happen? How could there possibly be a quarterback in Carolina worse than Sam Darnold? I just don't get it. I thought better was to come for the position there, but I guess not.
Yeah, 2018 is not a great year, I guess. So I should probably stop trying to grab the QBs from there. But who knows? Maybe it'll be Cooper Rush next year.
Yeah. Or Lamar.
Deck, what are you thinking about the Panthers and or the Saints?
Yeah, the Panthers, on defensive wise, like you mentioned, the one player you didn't mention was actually Frankie Louvu. I'll give a little shout out to the Stay Hot podcast. Frankie Louvu, I didn't even realize this. I knew he was pretty good, but I didn't realize until I was looking back at some of his plays and some of the film. This guy is everywhere. He's always right there in the backfield stuffing. He had that forced fumble on Alvin this past week. He's a very good player, and Derek Brown up the middle shuts her down at nose tackle. While Brian Burns and that secondary, which I kind of thought that secondary would be a little bit better. I was kind of thinking Dante Jackson and C.J. Henderson and J.C. Horn. J.C. Horn has been playing pretty good, but Dante Jackson, C.J. Henderson, I thought maybe with them still being young, maybe they could take another step. But And Jeremy Chin too. He's kind of a player we haven't been hearing a lot about this year as much as we did the past 2 years. But yeah, not a whole lot to say about the Panthers. I think ideally for them it would be try to just take as much as this season, get rid of Rule, get new leadership in there, and go and just draft a quarterback and just get rid of Baker and Darnold and those guys. Just clear house.
Yeah.
And then Saints wise, defensively is very disappointing. Like you said, Tyler, Jordan and Davenport are just non-existent, and Honey Badger there was so much more hype for him coming back to New Orleans the way he's been doing through 3 weeks. He's not producing one bit, and I was very, how should I say this? Because me and Wontok both had Jameis as our comeback player of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like with these weapons, while Tampa he had the weapons with Evans and Godwin, the whole trio of Landry, Thomas, and Olave I thought would really benefit Jameis this year. And then having a very elite receiving back in Alvin Kamara, I just thought so much better for Jameis. But I guess you can't take the 30-30 Jameis out of Jameis. And the O line is like, I thought this was for sure going to be a top 5 unit this year. And besides Eric McCoy at center, Andres Pete and Cesar Ruiz at guards doing little. Ramczyk is still solid, but you could really tell the departure of Teron Armstead is hurting them up front, and I got a lot of worries about the Saints, and I think for sure we're seeing now that Sean Payton being gone is taking its toll.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because I think we were definitely very optimistic about the Saints when we were making our predictions. I think that there was a lot of question marks, but I think for the most part, we did think that they're going to go right. I mean, obviously, because obviously thought that it would go right, but so far it has not. Maybe a couple more weeks of group cohesion are needed, but yeah, as of right now, Saints are kind of looking like a bust this year. Moving on, we have 2 teams that I'm feeling very good about, which, by the way, through 3 weeks, my 10-7 vision is still alive. Lions versus the Vikings. Man, what a nail biter. Deck, what are you? What are you thinking about this game?
I have some mixed feelings about it. Obviously, while I don't like that we, defensive wise, I don't like that we, gave ourselves a deficit of 10-point deficits twice. They did end up shutting it down, and a stat I do like is through 3 weeks the Vikings haven't allowed any points in the fourth quarter, which I'm pleased with because the old last year's Zimmer team, I mean, my God, 2.5 halves, fourth quarters, giving up NFL record amount of points. But and then offensive wise, I like what Kirk did. Like we didn't really get to see a lot of this Kirk with Zimmer, and I could see KOC bringing it out in him. Those 10-point deficits, he definitely kept a calmer head, made the drives that he needed to make, and executed. And I've been impressed so far. Like, it's crazy to say, Garrett Bradbury through 3 weeks is the 6th best center PFF wise. He has no penalties this year and allowed 1 sack, so he hasn't been a glaring weakness like we thought he would be. So I've come away impressed with that. And yeah, no, I mean, a win's a win. Not everything's gonna be perfect, but props to the Vikings. KOC talked about it, about resiliency and getting punched in the face in week 2 against the Eagles, and how do you respond after that? We could have easily rolled over being down 14-0 and then 24-14, but Kirk and the boys came back, so I came away for the most part impressed.
Yeah, it's definitely a game that I think we have to thank Dan Campbell for the win on this one, because I'm pretty sure that if they had just chosen to punt with John Fox, who's a more than proven punter, instead of trying to get that field goal, I don't think we win that game. So
yeah, and it goes to show too, like, while Dan Campbell's a great, player coach and a big rah guy, you can't just have that as your one skill. You got to be able to have game management. He effed that up bad at the end of that game.
Yeah, they might need to go find him a game management advisor like Hackett has, maybe, but let's hope that that's not the case. Tyler, you got anything to add to this game?
Yeah. So remember last time when I was like, Jeff Okuda's actually having a decent year coming off an Achilles. Guess what Jeff Okuda did this week? He put the absolute ever-loving clamps on Justin Jefferson. Now, he did have safety help, so he was able to be a little bit more aggressive, but it was a very, very good showing for what we thought was going to who we thought was going to be an absolute bust at when he was drafted, or a year post his draft. So I am actually very, very excited for Jeff Okuda. Glad to see that he's kind of starting to live up to the draft hype. But like I said, he did have safety help. Usually that's what the Lions will do. They'll put like the number 2 cornerback on the wide receiver 1 and just have safety help, and then like put the number 1 cornerback on the wide receiver 2, just so that kind of offsets. But this Lions defense, it's got, like, as we can see, it's got some big holes, but they have a couple good players that in a couple years could, or a year or two, could really like develop into something, being like Okuda, Hutchinson, and Rodriguez, the young core of that defense. So, and this offense, that offensive line is just so goddamn good. Jamal Williams, like, just plug him in and he'll just run all over you, man. You don't even need Swift to have an efficient running game, so I was impressed with him. But yeah, overall a really good game. Glad I was able to watch it with you guys.
I'm glad to watch any game with you guys.
But I will say, the stat of the season, or as of right now for the Detroit Lions, they have scored 95 points, which is the second most amount of points. Oh, they've scored the second most amount of points. How are they not 3-0? That seems like a really good mark. They've allowed 93 points, which is dead last. So, obviously, that defense is not there, so they really got to, work on not giving up so many points, i.e., win football games. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, because it is a thing I heard, is that if you score a lot of points,
right,
and don't allow a lot of points, you
win the games. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
You should be a coach.
So, hey, man, I probably have better game management than Dan Campbell. Anyways, moving on.
You can't get anyone to run through a wall, though, I'm sorry to say.
You haven't seen me try. Anyways, we have the Colts versus the Chiefs. I'll start by saying that all three of us, including our guest last week, Dr. Fade, we all locked the Chiefs to win this game, simply because of how absolutely atrocious the Colts have looked through 2 weeks. Okay, maybe not atrocious, but compared to the Chiefs, yeah, pretty bad. And the exact opposite happened. The Colts won this game. Fellas, what are we thinking about the Colts and the Chiefs? What's the takeaway?
So if I were to tell you, or if I were to have you guess who the the Chiefs' leading rusher was out of like their stable of running backs, who do you think it was?
Ooh, good question. I would go with Jerick McKinnon.
Out of the stable of running backs that they have, yes, he had 20 yards on 7 carries. The person with the most amount of rushing yards was Patrick Mahomes, 4 rushes for 26. So, we're kind of seeing the Chiefs and the Bills both kind of fall into this like pass-heavy, no run game having offense, and it has a lot to do with their O-lines. This Chiefs offensive line has not, or at least for this game, did not look good at all. They looked horrible. Granted, Colts did get some defensive players back, but nonetheless, this should be a top 5 offensive line week in, week out. They did not get anything going on the ground. And, Chiefs they have potentially the most explosive offense in the league, yet they put up only 17 points against the Colts, who we thought before this week were just absolute bums. So we saw the verbal dispute between Bieniemy and Mahomes, and you have to wonder, is Bieniemy the real deal? Is he not evolving the game enough during, or evolving their scheme enough during the game and getting things to work? And I'm not worried about the Chiefs at all. It's just they have to answer some questions for me as the season goes on, such as their offensive line and the play calling. How are they going to adapt after this loss? The Colts side, I knew I didn't think they were going to win this game, but I did not think that they were playing I did not think that they were as bad as they were playing. So, step in the right direction. You can only build off of this one. So, Jonathan Taylor was a little meh, but it's good to see Matt Ryan still has an arm attached to his torso that can, I guess, throw the ball down the field. But, I mean, his yards per throw was, I believe, 6 yards. So, not fantastic, but it got the job done.
Yeah, no, is Pittman back yet? He played last week, right?
Yes, he did.
Okay, yeah. Because I figured, but I thought maybe that was the reason why it was 6. But if Pittman's back, then that's a mild concern. It's like I always thought that the Colts defense was going to be good this year. Through the first 2 weeks, I was, of course, hesitant because they haven't been playing well at all. But I think this could be a showing for the Colts D we thought we were going to get and might see for the rest of the year. But yeah, same thing. I'm not worried about the Chiefs at all. Deck, what are you thinking?
Yeah, Tyler hit the nail on the head with Bieniemy, I think. The past couple off seasons, we wondered to ourselves, while Bieniemy has gotten a lot of head coaching interviews, he has not landed one job yet. I think it's been 3 or 4 straight off seasons he's gotten interviews. And we wonder, what is it about him that's just not clicking? And I know part of me thought maybe he's just not a people person. Maybe he's just an awful interviewer and it just doesn't pass off good. But now I think we're starting to see, like you said, Tyler, I don't think he's modernizing. There's something about him that he's just like we've never seen Patty snap at him like we did on Sunday. And he's just not having it right now. There's something very off about him. And I think this is what front offices have been seeing all along the way with him.
Yeah.
Is that
real quick, if we sound confused about the situation, it's because this is kind of the first time we've seen. This isn't the first time we've seen the Chiefs struggle. This is the first time we've seen Patrick Mahomes respond to the Chiefs struggle, and to Bieniemy, the guy who he's supposed to be working with. So sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
No, you're fine. Mm-hmm. But to touch on that old line, yes. While Creed Humphrey, stud at center, and Joe Tooney very good as well at guard. Orlando Brown and Andrew Wiley at tackles.
Yeah. Not
looking good at all. Trey Smith, who had he was a 6th-round rookie last year, looked very good in his rookie year. Not really living up to it this year. So Patty's, the pressure's there a little bit. That he's been getting.
I think Creed Humphrey's agent must pay PFF money to just keep giving him good grades because even when this O-line has bad games, he's always the number 1 rated center, which I don't get. I don't think he's that good. Obviously he's good, but to be week in, week out, especially when having bad games, it's a little fishy to me, that's all.
Yeah. Dude, Creed Humphrey is him. What do you mean?
Okay.
So then and then to touch on the Colts, I'm not sold on the Colts still at all. This was more on the Chiefs shooting themselves in the foot in this game than it was the Colts really outplaying them. I think it was the Colts had the Chiefs had 2 missed field goals. I think it was a missed extra point, or maybe it was 1 missed field goal, a missed extra point. They had a muff punt, and there was another blunder in there. The Chiefs' special teams was god awful this game. That gave the Colts the opportunity to even win this game and get in and keep it close. Matt Ryan doesn't do anything for me. Like, I still think he's going to be the one that holds this team down truly on offense. JT hasn't been able to get it going at all. And defensively, yeah, it was a pretty good showing for the most part, but I just not a huge believer in it. So a lot to clean up for the Chiefs, and yeah, I'm just not really sold on the Colts after this game. I'm still pretty much out.
I mean, it's obviously that you can't base the Colts off this 1 point. Granted, it is impressive, but we will have to see them win more to really feel good about how they are. A team that has been winning really well, and perhaps public opinion is shifting, would be the Jacksonville Jaguars, who just won, who just got a very convincing victory against the Chargers. Granted, maybe a very injured Chargers team, but a very impressive win nonetheless. Guys, Jacksonville 16-1.
We were talking about Coach of the Year, and Doug Peterson has to be up there too. Like the way that Doug Peterson has come in and completely changed this organization, this team is very impressive. Like, sure, it shows how bad of a coach Urban Meyer was. Like, this guy was god awful. Doug Peterson is getting a lot. This is what we expected from Trevor Lawrence. Once you got him a good coach, and Trevor Lawrence is clicking right now. And yes, a lot of it was he's finally got the weapons too. The front office went got him weapons, and that Christian Kirk signing, while criticized at the time, it's really paying off. I think Christian Kirk is looking like that guy. He's looking very, very good. And James Robinson too. I mean, my God, this guy comes off a torn Achilles and is just playing phenomenal right now. Outplaying a rookie, technically a rookie because he was injured all his rookie year, but Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence's college buddy, and James Robinson is just outplaying him and outsnapping him in every facet. And defensively, man, this Jags defense is looking good. I mean, the back-to-back weeks, you shut down JT in week 2, which, if you shut down JT, you pretty much shut down the entire Colts offense, which they did. They shut him out. But to come back in week 3 while Herbert was banged up, nonetheless, they shut down that core in Los Angeles, and Chargers never ran it, and when they did run it, Eckler didn't do much. Sure, it was in the passing game, he did a lot of his work, but run game, very, very, not a whole lot. But so I'm very impressed with the Jags, and I think this is their division to take for sure. Like, this has to be the year they take that South. And on the Charger side, I got a lot of questions. Was it worth? Well, Wontuck, I know you would have loved to have seen Justin Herbert put up a garbage time touchdown for your fantasy team. Mm-hmm. Was it worth it putting him out there that final 8 minutes or whatever when they were down 38-10, only risking further injury for him? I question that a lot. And while if they were fully healthy, I wouldn't be as concerned because they would have the health there. But Slater done for the year at left tackle, and J.C. Jackson banged up again, and Joey Bosa going to be out a few more weeks. The injuries are really, and Keenan Allen too, who's always usually injured. They can't stay healthy, and that's really going to hold them back. And I know we had a lot of high expectations for them this year, but man, the injuries are really going to hold back the Chargers. I think I'm starting to get concerned.
Yeah. To be fair, it's not that you can really forecast the injury problems. I think if we took injuries into account for every team, if we said oh, yeah, their best left tackle is going to get injured, and this and such going to be injured, then yeah, records would be different. Because in a perfect world, the injuries wouldn't happen, and Tyrod Taylor would still have a job somewhere. But I think we definitely could not have seen this coming, but with that in mind, it could definitely be an issue. And yeah, Decker, to answer your question about Herbert, I do think you got to pull him when you're down by that much, and he was still clearly not 100%. Apparently, he insisted on staying in, but sometimes
but Staley just has to overtake him at that point. I mean, yeah,
you got to put your foot down and be like, "Hey, man, we got 13 other weeks to play here." You know who would have taken their QB out if they were down by that much and had the balls to do it? Mike McDaniels, baby. He would have done it. He would have. Tyler, your thoughts?
Couple things about the Jags. I think after this season is fully done, I think people are going to realize that Trevor Lawrence was not a bust like he was being labeled after his rookie season with Urban Meyer, and I think he'll be labeled as a top 10 quarterback in the league after this year. I really do think so. He is showing phenomenal work in the pocket, and his accuracy and anticipation is like top tier. So, like, I do think I don't even think it should be a hot take right now that Trevor Lawrence is in the top half of quarterbacks in the league. I do think he has the potential to be a top 10 quarterback after the season. Two, if the Queen had James Robinson's doctor, she would still be living, and I would probably add 10 more years onto her lifespan. I don't know how, but James Robinson looks phenomenal coming off an Achilles injury, which, like, never, ever happens. Like, it sometimes takes, like, 2 full years for running backs, especially running backs, to come back from an Achilles tear. Yet here he is, outproducing Travis Etienne, who is an athletic stud. And it's just absolutely amazing. On the other side, or one last thing about the Jaguars. While they might not be Saxonville, their run defense is just stuffing the run. Like, their interior or their outside guys in Walker and Josh Allen, those guys are bona fide studs. They're playing so well, and Walker, especially as a rookie, is playing really, really well against the run. So, the Jags have had 2 back-to-back first overall picks, and it's looking like they hit on both. So good on them. One more thing, we laughed at the Christian Kirk signing when it happened. He is living up to that contract. He has looked really, really well. Really, really good. So, on the Chargers side, now if you got their team doctor to look after the Queen, she'd be dead 10 years ago. So, obviously we see the difference in staffs coming into play, but I don't know what the hell that the coaching staff was thinking, letting Herbert finish this game. It's just so mind-boggling. Like, he was playing hurt, and, he, even with that, he's able to throw a freaking rope 60 yards down the field. But you gotta have the players' health in mind, especially with blowouts like this. And, they're, like, if I were to put a number for the, like, level of worried I am about the Chargers, it's got to be like a 6 or a 7. I don't want to put it like all the way up at a 9 or a 10 because, players do come back from injury. But in the meantime, their offensive tackles, their bookends of this offensive line, absolutely horrible. Storm Norton, statistically, was the worst tackle in the league last year. Now he has to go play left tackle. And, you got to remind me of the right tackle's name.
Pipkins?
Pipkins, yes. He's barely better than Storm Norton. Not to mention, Corey Linsley has the injury bug this year, and like that kid on the defense with Bosa and J.C. Jackson. It's like haven't seen this Chargers team fully healthy yet, and it's like we've been saying on paper they look like the best team. They're 1-2 right now. I still think if they get to the playoffs, and that's when they get healthy, they can definitely make a run. But I don't know if they can make it there because, like, Allen Robinson, or not Allen Robinson, excuse me, Keenan Allen and now I'm blanking on the Mike Williams. Those guys are, as a wide receiver duo, they're just, this whole wide receiver unit is just so average. They have no one that can separate. And I think it's really going to hinder this offense for explosive plays. And, you got to be able to get a couple explosive plays a game, and you can't get it from any of these wide receivers. So I am a little worried about this Chargers offense.
Yeah, it's definitely a valid concern to have. I know that some people maybe listening to this podcast would say that Josh Palmer is the answer. And to that, I would say, stop sending me that trade. Moving on, we have Packers versus Bucks.
Yeah.
This was a game between two of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and it was kind of a boring game in terms of scoring. Tyler, we'll let you start since you're the Packer fan of the group. What are you thinking?
So last week I expressed my concern over the Packers, even after a blowout win against the Chicago Bears. This week, while I still do have some reservations, I'm confident to say that the Pack is back. That defense looked really good. Now, granted, they weren't going against the Bucks, number ones, but still, to hold that team to 12 points is still super impressive, to me at least. And on the offensive side, Dubs has kind of cleared the way to be this team's wide receiver one. And as a Packer fan, watching him, you can kind of see some Devontae-esque attributes that he has. While he's nowhere near the caliber Devontae was when he left, it did take. You see the potential. You see the potential there, and I'm excited to see when we're all healthy. We have Sammy Watkins in there, who whatever, and Christian Watson back in there, who's been dealing with injuries, and oh my God, David Bakhtiari played it is a Packers fan wet dream to see David Bakhtiari back on the field. I was so pumped to see him, and it's so important because in the snaps that he played, he was the highest graded pass blocker. And while he didn't play a whole lot of snaps, which might have boosted that score or that rating, he was still going up against really good pass rushers against the Bucks. Shaq Barrett, and their first round draft pick Hall. So I do think that as we've seen, as this Packers team gets healthier and healthier, I do think that they're just going to get better and better. So I'm really excited about it. And it kind of just goes to show you that Aaron Rodgers can do more with less compared to Tom Brady. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that the Packers, especially coming up here, they have an absolute cakewalk of a schedule because they're playing the Mac Jones list. Well, definitely going to be the Mac Jones list. Pats next week, and then you got the Giants, and then the Jets, and then the Commanders. So they're going to be probably sitting at 6-1, which will be very good for them, for sure. Yeah, I mean, if you guys figure out your receiver situation, that's going to be really helpful as well. Deck, anything to add to the Packers and Bucks?
Yeah, props to Green Bay because that first two offensive drives for Green Bay looked like they were going to blow the roof off Tampa the way they moved the ball down there and was scoring, and then Tampa settled down and held Green Bay in check the rest of the game, but
it's too late.
Yeah. And Green Bay's defense did phenomenal, like you said, Tyler. Green Bay's defense looked very, very good. But Tampa, it just seems to me like Tom Brady is he's so much more frustrated, and he seems just kind of disinterested.
Old. He's so old.
Yeah, this offensive line is. You can tell the frustration is really coming from that because while the weapons aren't healthy and not having Gronk there at tight end, they can't get anything going on the ground with Lenny. They're trying to get him going and they can't. And Brady's just not making the throws, and everything seems so off about Tampa right now. Besides their defense is their defense. They'll be good, but the offense just cannot get it going. Like you said, Brady's just showing his age. He goes down and it feels like it's 10 seconds before he can get up. He's slowly working his way up, getting help from two guys. It's my God, this has to be it. This has to be this last year.
Yeah, they probably told him that they were going to build a country kitchen buffet in the stadium if he came back. But I think that was an empty promise. for him for sure. But I definitely don't think we can count the Bucks out. I mean, I mean, obviously we can't. I do think we have to see what they'll look like when their weapons are all healthy. When you have Evans back is always not fighting anybody, and when Godwin's back healthy from his hamstring, I think that Brady might look better then. But yeah, uh, probably his last year. I would say so as well. Now we have our Sunday night thriller, which was the Broncos versus the 49ers. Oh my God. It's funny how we were all excited to see Jimmy G back. And now we watched one game from Jimmy G, and now we never want to see him again. Isn't that interesting?
It's something.
Yeah, this, Kyle Shanahan just, I don't know what he's doing. Same with Hackett. Both these teams need to run the ball more. They just gotta, those are the strengths of both of these offenses, running the ball. And granted, 49ers don't really have a workhorse running back. Like, Jeff Wilson was their, RB1, but still, he only had 12 carries. Like, they need to get more guys involved in the running game, and they got to do it a lot more because, as we've seen with the Bills and the Chiefs, it's so important to be able to run the ball, and with that efficiently. And both these teams can do it efficiently. And while the Broncos did run the ball a considerably more, they ran it more than the 49ers, but their efficiency is horrible. Granted, the 49ers front seven is top 5 in the league, to me at least. Their linebackers are probably the best unit of linebackers in the league, and that's obviously a tough thing to go against if you're trying to get the run game going. But if, as much as I love Melvin Gordon, he should not be getting 12 carries. He needs to be the guy that is just catching the ball, whatever, and Javonte needs to be the workhorse because he has shown it day in, day out that he is efficient with the ball. So I don't even know what to make of this score. 10-11. Come on. How are the Broncos 2-1, man? I just don't understand.
Wasn't it 12-11?
No.
11-10.
10-11.
Oh. Sorry, I thought it was 12-11, which honestly, 10-11 isn't as weird as 12-11, so that's probably for the best that it is that score. But man, you were speaking my language there. I'm being a Javonte Williams owner, watching Nathaniel Hackett call plays, just it makes me so upset. It's like watching Javonte get only one run on first down, where they stack the box entirely, and then he gets one yard, and then they put in Mike Boone, and it's like why is Mike Boone in there? Javonte's fine. Javonte, well, when you don't just run him on first down when they know you're going to run, he had like 6 yards of carry, and I hate Nathaniel Hackett. Decker?
It blows my mind that they're 2-1 and that this guy even has a job. I mean, he has no business being out there. None whatsoever. The luckiest 2-1 team out there, just because
they really are.
You face a better team in week 2. You face a more competent offense than what Texans have. They would blow the roof off them. And I mean, my God, if not for Jimmy G running out of the back of the end zone on Sunday night, San Francisco should have won this game.
Yeah.
So Denver just does nothing for me. I have nothing to say because it just makes me more frustrated that Nathaniel Hackett even has a job. And then in San Francisco, like we said, Shanahan is not living up to anything right now. He's very questionable stuff, and just sure this was Jimmy G's first official start back out there, and no training camp for him, no preseason. Can he build off this? We'll have to wait and see. The defense is still there. It's just I don't know. It's so tough to tell with this 49ers team. Where the direction they're gonna head. with Jimmy G back in there, they should be winning games because him and Shanahan always win games. But it's just really tough to see the trajectory they're going on right now. And I don't know, a lot of questions for both teams that I want to see answered here in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I mean, look at like the most dominating wins that like Jimmy G and the 49ers have like had ever, and the one I always go back to was, I think it was in the divisional round when it was like Raheem Mostert and someone else who I'm forgetting. I think it was Matt Breida. Like both of them had a combined like 35 carries on the ground, and they ran the ball all the time, and the Jimmy threw the ball like 12 times. That's the way that a team like this is going to win games, and they can't win it off the back of Jimmy.
Oh, and it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt for them now with Trent Williams being out 4 to 6 weeks. That's going to be a big loss for them.
That's a good point too. Yeah, that's definitely not going to be good either, because he is definitely one of the top guys when he's on the field. Moving on, we have a game that caught some of us by surprise. I think we all picked the Raiders, if I'm not mistaken, except for Dr. Fade. He picked the Titans, but we all thought he was crazy, and the Titans won this game. Guys, what are we thinking about the Titans and the Raiders being 0-3?
Raiders are a joke.
Yeah.
Like, this seems like I love talking about head coaching firings and new changes. I love it, but doesn't Josh McDaniel just seem like a one and done? Like, this guy is not a head coach. We saw it in Denver's first run. He did not live up to expectations at all originally coming out of that New England staff, and now the second time around, he's doing the same thing. I mean, he's just holding this team back in somewhat, and statistically, we've seen it. The Belichick disciples do nothing. Like Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, flops at head coach. Now we're seeing it with McDaniel again. And, I mean, my God, the hype with this Raiders team when they acquired Chandler Jones and Devontae Adams over the offseason. I mean, now Devontae Adams through weeks is getting frustrated and angry. Rightfully so. I mean, my God, this offense should be top 10, and they are not living up to it. Derek Carr is playing awful. The worst football he's played in years. And with Devontae and Waller and Renfro and heck, even Mac Hollins, who's been a surprise, should be doing a lot better. And this offensive line also is a joke as well. So, and defensively, they just haven't been able to do nothing. I mean, Derrick Henry ran all over them, which Derrick Henry should be doing against every team. But, man, this Raiders defense is just, everything about the Raiders right now is a mess. And as for the Titans, I mean, sure, you got to win, but I'm not impressed with them at all either. I mean, they just do nothing for me as well. And Derrick Henry, great game, but Titans, there's so many question marks with them. I'm so out on them still. So
yeah, I mean, Decker, it's good to see that you're revolving, because rather than saying that Josh McDaniels will be a mid-season fire, you're saying he's a one and done, which shows you're starting to be more even keel, which I do appreciate.
And I just don't think the Raiders. I think they'll make it through the entire year, but I don't see them making the playoffs, or I just don't see a turnaround coming for this team. I really don't.
Yeah, no, I definitely kind of get what you're saying there, because if they don't perform to the expectations, I know that Mike Davis is going to want to head on a spike, and it's probably going to be Josh McDaniels. Tyler, what are you thinking?
Who the hell is Mac Hollins? Okay, why is he getting the same amount of targets as Devontae Adams? Just send Devontae back to Green Bay. We'll do so much better with him. 36 yards? What is this? Like, oh, it's so frustrating to see the best wide receiver in the league that was once on your team go, and, he was like, oh, going from Hall of Famer to Hall of Fame. No! Derek Carr sucks! He's horrible! You have 5 catches this game! Against the Titans! Like, oh, it is so frustrating to see this, and it hurts my heart, because I want the best for Devontae, but he's not going to get it with the Raiders, I'm afraid.
Jesus Christ. Tyler, you scared the absolute shit out of me when you were doing the thumping thing. I was like, is there an earthquake in the Midwest? Did not the San Andreas fault line finally go off? Oh my God. I was fucking terrified.
I will say,
sorry for cutting you off, but
you're good. Now that I've calmed down, this Titans team, I might have been out on them last week, but after this week, and kind of like the weeks past, with the numbers that Tannehill has put up, he's been sneaky efficient with the ball. And, while he did throw a pick, he only took 1 sack, which is, big. Because this offensive line, I did not consider to be very good. And you're going up against Max Crosby and Chandler Jones, who, man, he looks like he's 40 out there. Not living up to much of anything these days. But most importantly, Derrick Henry had a decent game on the ground, but a fairly a fairly more impressive game through the air. He had 5 receptions, and Henry essentially had no presence in the pass game for the Titans, and he caught 5 balls for 58 yards, and this is, as a Henry fan and a Henry owner in a league, it's good to see. And Treylon Burks only had 1 reception, but I do think that he could potentially be the real deal for them. So I do like him a lot. And Raiders suck. That's it. That's all I have to say.
One more point I want to bring up about the whole Josh McDaniel thing is that it's really telling that after three games in your first tenure here, in your first year, that you were having a closed door meeting with the owner after 3 games. That's not a good look.
No, it's definitely not. I mean, sorry, Deck. I know that I give you shit for doing all the doing the mid-season firing things, but maybe Mike Davis is hot-headed enough where he might even consider it, but who knows? It's unlikely, but if it were to happen, it would probably be Josh McDaniels just on a waste of potential so far. Moving on, we have the Bengals versus the Jets. This was a game that we had forecasted to be a righting of the ship for the Bengals. Tyler had forecasted it as a Jets win for the meme, and unfortunately that did not happen. Guys, what are we thinking about the Bengals and Jets? Do we think that the Jets have a chance with Zach Wilson back, or do we think that it's the Joe Flacco era?
If they couldn't win this game with Joe Flacco, I definitely don't think that they could win it with Zach Wilson. I don't have very much to say about this game other than this wasn't a very funny outcome. But, Sauce Gardner, I'm pretty sure his streak is still going. There was one kind of questionable play where there was a broken coverage where he passed it off and no one picked it up. But I'm pretty sure it's attributed to him giving up the touchdown. It was a slant to Chase, or Higgins, one of the two. And you know what? In my book, that's not on him. I think his streak of not giving up a touchdown in a game is still going. So, props to him. Has looked very good this year.
Yeah. Decker, anything to add?
Yeah, for the Bengals side, you hope you can keep this up. I mean, the Jets sure were an easier one to get going, but, man, it was good to see, Burrow kind of go back to last year's roots, and Jamar was involved, and Boyd and Higgins. He was using all 3 receivers, and Mixon really didn't get anything going, but, yeah, it was nice to see the Bengals kind of, in a way, get on track again a little bit. But, yeah, I think for the Jets, sure it was a feel-good story last week, beating the Browns in miraculous fashion. This will probably be what we see for sure the rest of the year.
So
Flacco or Wilson, regardless.
I don't know how the Jets. I don't think they're going to be able to, because he's just going to throw picks. But Joe Flacco threw 50+ games in the first 3 games of the year, threw 50+ passes in the first 3 games of the year.
Mm-hmm.
how? you know, like they ran the ball a total of 20 times. While this offense isn't great, you have excellent running backs in Brees Hall and Michael Carter. Those guys are playmakers. So I think when Wilson does come back, I do think we'll see an uptick in usage in those two running backs. Both of them have looked really, really good in the passing game. They've caught a lot of balls. But that's the one thing with the Jets, well, among others. But I do think that if they keep up these like passing attempt numbers that they have been doing, I think they're doomed because Zach Wilson is going to throw twice the amount of picks Joe Flacco has.
Yeah, that's probably could be a possibility. Well, moving on, we have another group that could be seeing a QB change. Well, it definitely will for the next couple weeks, given the recent ankle injury. We have the New England Patriots versus the Ravens. Now, I'm just going to say one thing because it's all I really have to say about it. Because I did lock the Patriots, and I felt very confident about that. And granted, it didn't happen. I was just surprised. Not surprised. I was just happy that it was as close as it was for so long. Made me feel kind of smart. So that was a good feeling. Guys, what are we thinking about the Ravens? And what are we thinking about the Mac Jones-less Patriots for the next couple weeks?
Just about the Patriots being Max Jones-less, they're screwed. And for the Ravens, Lamar, a.k.a. him, Lamar is the best player in the NFL. There, I said it. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Not Aaron Rodgers?
I'll walk that back. Lamar, when he's on the field, he's the best player on offense or defense. Okay. He has.
It sounds like you didn't change the stance at all. It just sounds
Well,
like
I mean, there's some offensive guys that might rank higher than him, but whatever. So,
okay.
With all that said, Lamar, I don't know who is leading MVP discussion as of right now. I'm pretty sure it's Josh Allen still. Lamar has to be a close second. He is putting up ridiculous numbers, and it's not the fact that he's doing it against, the Dolphins and the Patriots. It's the fact that the last time that he played these two teams, he was he was bewildered against the blitz, and both those teams blitz a shit ton, and he has looked phenomenal against the blitz, and that's kind of just showing you that he's able to evolve and develop his game into, a top tier passing game, and you're able to match that with the elite speed that he has. He's probably the fastest quarterback that the league has ever seen, and you're able to match that with his elite passing skills. It's you gotta pay the man his money. Otherwise, you're gonna be bankrupt if he makes it to all 17 games playing like this, which there is a real possibility he could.
Yeah, you definitely want to get something figured out soon. But yeah, maybe he's just gonna wait till see if he slows down, or I think at this point, with the way he's playing, maybe he will, test the market, quote, and just kind of put the fire under the butts of the Ravens to see what they'll do. Deck, anything to add?
Yeah, on the Patriots front to start off with, props to them for being able to put up 26. Didn't think their offense could do it really, but they got the ground game going. Ramondre Stevenson got going, had a great game, his best one of the year, and both running backs got touchdowns. So they got going with Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. But for the Ravens on defensive wise, Kyle Hamilton, had that big chase down strip fumble that set up the Ravens for the dagger on offense. And then Marlon Humphrey got a pick in there too. Their secondary played good for the most part, and hopefully we can see more of that. But as Tyler just alluded to, you got to pay Lamar. If you're the Ravens front office, I don't care what it takes, how much you got to spend. This guy's generational, and if you lose him, you are done you might as well enter a rebuild because you are done. So Lamar, whatever it takes, this man is on a whole nother level. Just pay him. I don't care. Whatever Lamar, because he's his own agent, whatever he wants, give the man, because he's so special.
Yeah, that is definitely Lamar. Paying him is not an option. And I think that the bigger question is, between these two teams, is there anyone even worth paying? That is the Bears versus the Texans. And, of course, I lock the Bears. I'm the smartest man alive. But kind of a slugfest between two teams that... Okay, well, question. Justin Fields. Bad or worse?
Worse.
He is the worst quarterback in the league, hands down. If he didn't have his rushing ability, he would be sat on any other team. He is atrociously bad. Like,
Yes.
I'd rather have Zach
I
Wilson than Justin Fields. Like, he's that bad.
I do feel bad for him,
Yeah.
too. I do have, like while he is atrocious, I do feel a little bad
He
for
makes
him.
the worst decisions. I don't feel bad for him. Well, you know what? I know what you're saying. Sorry.
Yes, I agree. He makes poor decisions and is very bad right now. But I would like to see maybe down the road, if not in Chicago, obviously, I would like to see a front office get him like what Trevor Lawrence has. Go get him a Doug Peterson who will invest time into you, and actually spend to get playmakers around you. Because my God, while he makes the poor decisions, how can you really succeed when your main target you've been throwing to is Equanimous St. Brown? And
This definitely settles the debate that Darnell Mooney is not better than anyone on the Packers. Well, I'll not say anyone, but he is. If he was on the Packers, he would not be the best wide receiver. That settles it. And I can't believe there was even a discussion about this to begin with.
Yeah, a lot of people. It's like when it came to the whole Mooney discussion, everyone was always saying like, "Oh, well, it's the supporting cast. It's a bad supporting cast," and I definitely don't think that having like 3 catches for like 17 yards through 3 games is supporting cast. I think that's just being bad. So, that's the Bears versus the Texans.
That was a football game.
Moving on, we have. It was a football game, and it was played.
Real
but
quick.
I was right.
Khalil Herbert is so much better than David Montgomery. I'm just going to put that out there. I think I've said that in the past, but
I agree.
agreed.
Yeah, Khalil Herbert, him.
So, okay, Tyler, quick question. Jackson or Herbert? Who's better?
For who's him?
Who's him? Sorry, yes, who's him?
They're both him. You can have multiple hims. Yeah.
Both? Ooh,
Yeah.
that's a development. I don't know if the league knows about there being 2 hymns.
Yeah.
I think that there's a third
Real ones
hymn
know who's him.
that. Yeah, I think there's a third
really?
hymn that we're all forgetting about, and he's not on the Rams or Cardinals, but there's a third one out there. Rams versus Cardinals. This was a good game. Guys, what do we think?
Not impressed with either team.
Yeah, same. Not much to say on my front. Cooper Kupp, him.
All I'm gonna say is that the Rams, I think what Tyler said preseason, I don't know if they will make the playoffs. They might sneak in as a wild card, sure, but I got so many questions about this team. The whole atmosphere around the team. Offensive line is so bad. Aaron Donald's on the verge of retiring. McVay doesn't really seem into it as much. I don't know. Arizona's just god awful, and they won't make the playoffs for sure. But a lot of questions about the Rams.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the more definitely a developing story to watch for sure. I think that's all the games that we'd wanted to touch on. I suppose. Let's do Eagles versus Commanders in a sentence. Decker, your thoughts in a sentence.
Eagles are Super Bowl contenders.
Okay. Sam, I
Okay.
think you
Tyler, your thoughts in
I
a
think
sentence.
you know my sentence.
Jesus.
Jalen Hurts
Another
is
him? Ooh, I could not have seen that coming.
Also, I don't know if we're going to touch on this, but I'll also do one sentence for Dallas and Giants. Saquon, him.
Breaking news: half of the league is him. Yeah. Okay.
Cooper Rush can win you games.
Cooper Rush is him.
Yeah,
Rush
Cooper-
is him. He's actually so impressive. Like, to be a backup and thrust it.
He
like,
has been.
He's been really, really good. Well, it has been against the Giants, who is like has a very bad defense, but Cooper Rush him. Yeah.
Him.
He's made
Him?
some pretty impressive throws. Also, him is also Micah Parsons is also him, by the way, in case you didn't know.
CD
Yeah,
Lamb maybe too.
Oh, CeeDee Lamb might
No.
be him. Actually, no, he dropped that ball. He's not him.
Forget about that.
Yeah,
drop
he
touchdown pass.
he is.
Look at that one hand.
Oh yeah. He did have that
back corner.
one-handed. He is him. He is him. Confirmed.
Oh shoot, man! Yeah, he's him. It's definitely him. Okay. With that being said, if you listen to this podcast, you are him. Thank you for listening,
Or her.
everyone.
Or her.
Please,
Or her, yes.
or her,
Or they.
her,
Or them.
or yeah, whatever you want to be called, you are that. Thank you, everyone, thank you for listening, guys. We really do appreciate it if you're sticking around and listening.
Yeah.
So we'll get back to you very soon with our Week 4 predictions. Check us out on Instagram or on TikTok, and yeah, thank you, and have a good night, everyone.
Sam Wontok confirmed